Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Wednesday. The big day is here. How is everyone feeling today? I bet you're feeling all exactly the same as me. That mixture of excitement, nausea, dread, nervousness, all combined into one. Whatever superstitions you may have, make sure you do them. If it's drinking out of your lucky cup of coffee, if it's putting on whatever clothes, whatever socks you need to wear, do it, because this is the sort of game that Arsenal need every bit of luck they can have, every superstition going their way. It is a massive, massive game. Arsenal versus Manchester City at the Emirates tonight. I shall be there, so keep your eyes peeled for all the usual stuff from me. If you're lucky enough to have a ticket for this one, be loud, get behind Arsenal, they need it. Mikel Arteta saying in his press conference yesterday that he thinks the crowd is going to make it feel like Arsenal have got 15 players today. And hopefully that is the case, because the Emirates needs to be rocking. I think there's a very good case, and I wrote a piece about it today to suggest this is the biggest game the Emirates has ever seen. There are obviously other contenders. I think about the Champions League semi-final, of course, against Manchester United, but I've tried to erase that from my memory because of how that went. But that was certainly up there. It was a huge, huge night. Unfortunately, one that went very wrong very quickly. The Barcelona games were obviously amazing spectacles in 2010, 2011, but they were early stages of the knockout. It wasn't like a semi-final or anything like that. It was the first leg as well, so as bigger occasions as they were and spectacles that it was, I'm just not sure it compares to this. I think the semi-final against United is the only one that compares to this. You could say Leicester around this time of year in 2016, but Arsenal were like 5 points behind Leicester at that time. It felt a little bit different. They were the hunters rather than the hunted, which is the case this season, of course. So it's just a massive, massive game. It's impossible to play it down, whatever your thoughts on if it's the biggest game at the Emirates or not. It is a huge game. One that if Arsenal win, they go 6 points clear. If Arsenal lose, then Manchester City will top the table for the first time since back in August, which just sounds amazing. I mean, imagine that. Arsenal haven't not been at the top of the table since the third week of fixtures in the Premier League, August. It's just a remarkable consistency from Arsenal, but a little bit of a slip up in the last couple of weeks. The defeat at Everton, the draw against Brentford, and suddenly Manchester City are right on Arsenal's coattails once again, although Arsenal of course do have that game in hand. Some massive battles tonight individually in terms of who's going up against who. I mean, Arsenal, they've lost their last 10 in the Premier League against Manchester City. It's amazing. Home and away, they've lost 10 in a row in the league against Manchester City. They've scored 3 goals in that time and conceded 26. That's how bad they've been against Manchester City in recent years. How do they change that? You look at some of the key battles. You're going to have Saliba versus Haaland. We'll talk about Saliba a little bit later on in this video. What a huge battle that is going to be. Can Saliba and Gabriel keep Haaland quiet? Keep him away from the danger areas where we know he's such a threat if the ball falls to him in and around the penalty area. I think Saka versus probably Nathan Ake, or whoever Pep chooses at left back, is going to be a huge battle. It's a huge opportunity for Arsenal there. I feel Saka, if he can play well, if we can get him on the ball and get him isolated quickly against that left back, whoever it may be, I think Arsenal are going to have a really good chance of getting some joy down that side. Defensively, you look at the form that Riyad Mahrez has been in for Manchester City. I think that's going to be a really crucial battle as well for that, because it's going to be probably Zinchenko against Mahrez. And you think if Zinchenko can get on top of that and can push Mahrez back, keep him out of the danger areas, that's going to be a huge thing for Arsenal. It's also going to mean that Arsenal are going to be on the front foot, because they're going to be able to get Zinchenko into those more central areas where he's such a threat. They're going to be able to pack the midfield, hopefully outnumber Manchester City in midfield, and that's where they're going to get they can sort of take advantage and start to hopefully dominate the game, or certainly have a big say in the amount of possession that the game is going to have. So there's so many big battles over there. Can Eddie and Nketiah get some change out of the Manchester City centre-backs? Can Arsenal get him an opportunity in and around the penalty area, which they weren't really able to do against Brentford at the weekend? Thomas Partey, what a job he has got today. When you sort of look at that and you think of the positions that De Bruyne is going to take up, can Thomas Partey shut him down, stay on him, limit that? And I think Zinchenko and Xhaka are going to have a big part to play in that as well. We all know how good De Bruyne is. We all know the danger he can be when he gets on the ball and he's in space and he can get his head up and look to see where Haaland is. If Arsenal can starve him of territory, starve him of space, and have mainly Partey, but also Xhaka and Zinchenko dropping in to that midfield area and really shutting the space down, then that will be a really good chance for Arsenal to again get some dominance in this game. So there's so many big individual battles that they're going to have to win to end this miserable run against Manchester City, but they've shown this season in the big games, they've beaten United at home, beaten Liverpool at home, beaten Tottenham at home. They can do it. They can step up to the occasion. They need to do that again tonight. Okay, if that hasn't got you in the mood for it, then let's carry on, talk a little bit more team news-wise for Arsenal. Certainly not for tonight's game, but brilliant news about Gabriel Jesus from Mikel Arteta yesterday. He said he's doing really well. He's on the pitch. He's been doing a lot of work on his own with the ball already. He's in good spirits. Rehab is going well. That's a really positive update from Arteta there on Gabriel Jesus. The fact he's doing a lot of work with the ball already, that is very, very good. Fingers crossed it's not going to be too much longer until we see him. Emil Smith-Rowe trained yesterday. He's been training throughout the week. Arteta was going to make a late decision on him. That decision would have already been made now. I don't know what it is at the moment, but there's a chance that he could be involved tonight in the squad. But if he's not, then I think he's certainly going to be involved against Aston Villa at the weekend, which is good news as well. Same goes for Reiss Nelson, who's been training for a while now. I think Reiss Nelson's been fully fit. I think he was fully fit ahead of the weekend's game. He wasn't chosen in that squad to face Brentford, but he is around. He's been training. He is fit. So good news on that. Suddenly the squad's looking an awful lot stronger with a fit Smith-Rowe and a fit Reiss Nelson in there, and hopefully very, very soon a fit Gabriel Jesus as well. It was a feisty press conference from Mikel yesterday. I'm sure you've seen it. The comments about VAR. He went further. He went harder than I thought he was going to. I have to admit, I thought he was going to probably steer away from generating too much controversy and stirring the pot even more just because of the size of the game tonight. I thought he was going to just think, you know what, that's in the past, let's just focus on the game. But he went for it, and fair play to him. I'm glad that he did, because it did need to be said, in my view, because of the way it wasn't just an error. This is what he said anyway, if you haven't seen it. He said, after analysing the images, we had huge anger and disappointment because that wasn't a human error. That was a big case of not understanding the job. That's unacceptable. That's cost us 2 points. They're not going to be restored. So we're going to have to find those 2 points somewhere else in the league. Everybody makes mistakes. That was something else. I wasn't having it. The club wasn't having it. And I think the consequences of what happened are clear. Really good comments there from Arteta. He's a clever guy. He always thinks about what he's going to say before he says it, and he would have obviously had this in mind. And I thought he was spot on with the sort of line and the tone that he went in. He was really, really clear that, and this is the thing that annoys everyone to do with Arsenal with this incident, is that it kind of has been dressed up a little bit as human error by VAR and by PGMOL afterwards, and that's the reason it's got it wrong. It was nothing to do with human error. It was just pure incompetence because he didn't do his job properly. It wasn't an error. He didn't get something wrong. It wasn't like the Crystal Palace Brighton game where they drew the line on the wrong player. That was an error, although that was incompetent as well. But this one, what happened in the Arsenal game, was just pure levels of incompetence. It was someone not doing the job he was there to do, his only job, and he didn't do it. And I think the way Mikel Arteta approached that in the press conference yesterday was really, really good. He accepted the apology. He said it was a sincere apology and he was happy to have it. He said the conversations he had with Howard Webb and PGMO were good and clear, and he thanked everyone for that, but he wasn't just accepting it. He made a point of saying that this wasn't acceptable and it can't be allowed to happen again because this was pure incompetence and nothing else. It wasn't human error. And I thought it was really good on those comments yesterday, Mikel Arteta, and fair play to him, because he could easily have just sort of shied away from it and thought, you know what, no, I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to focus on Manchester City. But he went for it, and I think he was well within his rights to go for it, because what happened at the weekend was frankly a disgrace, and something needed to be said. I thought his comments on William Saliba in the press conference were interesting. Now, Saliba was given a torrid time by Ivan Toney at the weekend. Toney was brilliant. It was one of the best individual performances I've seen at the Emirates for a long, long time from a visiting player. He was so good in so many areas, apart from his finishing, luckily, because he missed a couple of sitters. But in every other aspect of his game was excellent. He was so strong. He was so powerful. His ability to bring the ball down, to control it with his back to goal, either in the air or on the ground. It was just a top performance. And he caused Saliba all ends of troubles. And Saliba's been brilliant this season, no doubt about it. He's taken to the Premier League so well. He's adapted to the demands of the Premier League. But this was a real tough afternoon for him. Fair play to him. He kept going. He didn't back away or anything like that. He kept going, but he definitely would have been relieved at full time to hear that full time whistle and not have to face Ivan Toney again. And obviously tonight he's going to come up against a similar sort of striker in terms of physicality in Erling Haaland. And Mikel was asked about Saliba and what happened with Tony at the weekend. That's what he said. He said he has the physical capacity to handle it, but he also needs the time in, the exposure and the experiences he had with Tony to realise how difficult it is here. But if you put Ivan Toney against any defender in the league and you put 10 balls that are coming down with snow on them, he's probably going to beat them. But it's not about that ball, it's about what happens after it as well. City are not going to be putting those types of balls in, but they do have a goalkeeper that can put it in our box, that's for sure. So he's pretty much saying, look, it's going to be a different game. The way City are going to play is not the way Brentford are going to play. So Saliba's probably not going to have to deal with as many aerial battles, aerial duels that he had to with Ivan Toney, but there still will be a few because of the way that they play, and especially the way Ederson plays as well, and the clearances that he can give and the measured passes that he can give straight to Erling Haaland as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how Saliba gets on against Haaland. I thought Arsenal dealt with Haaland very, very well in the FA Cup game. I thought Rob Holding was really good against him in the first half, really aggressive, put Haaland off his game, got the book in, and then it was a good decision by Arteta to take him off at half-time and bring Saliba on. And then I thought Saliba coped with him very, very well in the second half as well. So I imagine it's going to be more of the same from Arsenal in that regard. They're going to try and frustrate Haaland, shut down any space he's got, and be pretty physical with him as well. And in Gabriel and Saliba, you've got two centre-backs who can do that. And it's going to be a really key battle in terms of how the game pans out today, is exactly how Arsenal handle Haaland and how much space they can limit him in and around the penalty area. It's a big game for Saliba. He's going to want a response, I'm sure, after what happened at the weekend. And the way he's gone this season, I've no doubts that he can, really sort of step up and show that what happened on Saturday was a bit of a one-off, and he can cope with what Haaland has to offer. All right, predicted 11-wise. Now, there's been lots of talk about what Arteta is going to do in this game in the build-up to it. He even said in his press conference yesterday, he said changes will be made and they'll happen very, very soon. When he was asked about the sort of the team looking tired a little bit and whether is the need for changes. Personally, I don't think he's going to do anything. So I reckon we're going to see the same starting 11 that we've seen since basically the return from the World Cup. I think he's going to stick with it one more time. I wouldn't be surprised, put it that way, if we get there and Trossard does start because he's playing so well and Martinelli is definitely struggling. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is a change, but I still just have a feeling he's going to go one more. I think we'll definitely see changes against Aston Villa on Saturday, but I think tonight he's going to go with a team that he trusts, that he knows, and that has got Arsenal in this position, unless anyone's injured that we don't know about, of course. So I think he's going to stick with it, and then on Saturday we'll see some changes. We'll see the likes of Tomiyasu probably come in. We'll see Trossard come in, maybe Jorginho as well. So this is the team I'm predicting for tonight. All of you know it off by heart by now because it's a team we always see. So it's going to be Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Nketiah and Martinelli. I think he's going to stick with that. And I think with Martinelli as well, I know there's been a lot of talk about his form recently, and I understand that because he's not been great, no doubt about it. His performance levels have dipped a little bit. But I just think as well, he's been very good against Manchester City in the past. He's caused them lots of problems. Even in the FA Cup game when he came on in the second half the other week, I thought he caused them a lot of problems down that left-hand side. Think back to last season's 2-1 at the Emirates when Arsenal destroyed City in that opening 45 minutes. Gabriel Martinelli ran them ragged. So I've just got a feeling we might see Martinelli again today, despite his poor recent form and despite what Trossard's been doing off the bench. I think we might see the Brazilian stay in that starting 11 today for one more game before the weekend when the changes might eventually come. But let me know anything you've heard, disagreed with, agreed with in this video. Please do, as always, let me know in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen tonight? What's the score going to be? Whatever you want to talk about, if you want to get some of those nerves out of your system just by having a bit of a rant or whatever you want to say in the comments, then just get it done. Have a good day, everyone. Don't get too nervous. We've still got a long time to go before kickoff, 7:30. Remember, if any of you are heading to the Emirates today, it's a little bit earlier kickoff than normal, so make sure you're there in plenty of time and be loud. Sing your hearts out and make it an atmosphere and a night to remember at the Arsenal. Speak to you soon. Have a great day.